Dubois?
They're both going to be fine, we believe. Precautionary to say the least. We just didn't want it to get worse, so nobody on the bench got to stay if they had anything that was a nick. So I don't know if they're going to practice 2 days from now, but they'll practice before we play. They'll be in the opening night lineup.
We'll go next to Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Sean.
Hey, Paul. A couple of your players out here talking. Mason Appleton says he thinks the Leafs are a team that they're going to run into down the road. Kyle Connor says, this is a series coming up that you could easily win and make a run. At the end of a tough stretch here, where does the team's, uber confidence kind of come out of? Where do they draw from?
They're just excited and happy. Like, it's a long year, and we had that. Again, I don't think that our team ever got on a very high roll this year. And even in that stretch, I don't think we internalized the idea that we were that far off it. So they're excited, right? We know the real challenge starting on the road, the team that we're going to face. But looking forward to it. Like, there's a kind of a sense of excitement in that room, and you win a game, you feel good, and we get to play fun games now.
We'll go next to Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press. Go ahead, Jeff.
Hey, Paul. Blake has said it a couple times in his post-game interviews, and that nobody had you guys picked here. You've mentioned this before. Even Blake mentioned about the discrepancies in the other divisions. I think that was assuming that the Canadian division might not be seen as strong as the other ones. This is all a roundabout way of saying, is this something that this club is rallying around? And how powerful can the us against the world mentality be in pro sports?
Yeah, I think it's all about perspective, right? Like, there's a lot of good things that happen. So what happened to a bunch of teams in the North Division is they got going, and then they got exalted to a place maybe that they shouldn't have been, and then didn't have it going, and they got dropped down to a place they didn't deserve to be. And then and that breeds that. So if you can kind of come out of that together, you've got a little bit of that, right? If anybody that's tasted adversity in the North Division, it's not private, right? It's public. It's in the paper, and that kind of brings your team closer together. So we felt we had a really close-knit team early on. We talked about that a lot, and then we went through that stretch, and I really feel coming out of that Montreal game, you saw it in a difficult time. So it's easy to say everybody loves each other when you're rolling, but we went through a real tough time here, and I think came out closer and with a more excitement about our game and the idea that we could not just get back to where we were, but we could be a whole lot better team here. So we're going into these, wide open eyes, excited about what's going to happen, and kind of looking at figuring out how good we really can be.
We'll go next to Paul Friesen from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Paul.
Paul, tonight's game, was it kind of the no-hitter you anticipated?
Yeah, I thought so. It was a skater, right? There was both teams reasonably respectful of what was going to happen when you look at the minutes. I think Austin Matthews played about 4 minutes in the first period. You're not going to see that again. So that both teams have key guys in their top 9 out of the lineup, got up and down the ice, but we feel that there are a whole bunch of things we were working on, and we saw it maybe more in our offensive game, kind of getting some pucks to the net and getting some scrums that didn't go for us, and then kind of scoring on our breaks, but which wasn't happening for us a week ago, right? We had a bunch of those same plays that didn't go in, but we had almost, if you go back early on in that stretch where we started, we had nothing else. So those plays didn't go in for us, and there was no other offense. But all the lines had some scrums around the net, some pucks that we almost got to, that we almost scored on, and we hadn't had that in the past. So that's the positive part of tonight's game.
Just a couple more for Coach. We'll go next to Murat Atesh from The Athletic. Go ahead, Murat.
Thanks, Gregor. Hi, Paul. I'm sure to some extent you would have found positives heading into the playoffs, regardless of end of season results, if you liked your process. I guess the question is, as a motivator of people, how important was it to get a couple of results and some offense the way that you like it to be able to point to now?
Well, important in that, and we'll go back to even some losses that maybe preceded, with the shutout and then the other, so preceded some better play, that they understood it. So if you go out and you're playing the exact same game and you just happen to hit a few of those chances you get, and the other team doesn't, and you don't really gain much. But I think this team can sit on the bench and see what's happening and understand it. And so I think the positives are that there was some intentional play that worked well for us in our last couple of games, and they saw it.
And final question to Ken Weaver from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Weaver.
Paul, you said when you put them back together, sometimes keeping a line apart that's familiar can bring a renewed energy. Do you believe that's what's happened, or what are you seeing from that top line since coming back together?
Right on. So an excitement there between the three of them, because in tonight's, the last two, but you know what, Ken, it's almost in practice as well, right? You see it there sometimes first. They're playing the game the right way, and they're also then playing really fast. And Kyle's feeling it, right? He's back. And so each one of them as an individual is starting to peak, it looks like. And then when you put the three of them together and they understand each other, you start to get that synergy that would make them greater than individuals. So they're pretty good right now at both ends of the rink, and they're starting to peak. And I understand what the game was tonight. I'm not overvaluing the goals they scored in this game, but they'll push harder too. That chemistry is there. It's always kind of been there, but they've got it all moving in the right direction now.
Thanks very much, Coach.
Yes.
Off day for us tomorrow, everybody. We'll be back with you after practice on Sunday.